While I was healing from a difficult surgery I had just to improve our marriage, my husband crushed me with the truth: he's leaving me for the neighbor who pretended to be my friend. The morning light filtered through the curtains, painting the bedroom in a soft glow. I winced as I shifted in bed, my body still sore from the surgery. The dull ache was a constant reminder of what I'd gone through, not just physically, but emotionally. The procedure wasn't medically necessary, but I did it anyway. For us. For him. Ethan had been distant for months, and I thought this might reignite the spark in our marriage. I wanted to feel desirable again. "Good morning," Ethan's voice broke through my thoughts as he walked into the room, a mug of coffee in his hand. "Morning," I replied, offering a small smile. "Did you sleep well?" "Yeah," he said casually, setting the coffee on his side of the bed without looking at me. I noticed he didn't ask how I slept, or how I was feeling. But I brushed it off. He was probably just distracted. Later that afternoon, there was a knock at the door. I tried to get up, but the pain in my abdomen made me groan. Ethan appeared in the doorway of the bedroom. "I'll get it," he said, already heading down the hall. From the bed, I could hear the faint sound of voices, his and someone else's. A woman's voice. Curiosity piqued, I strained to listen. But the conversation was muffled, their words indistinct. When Ethan returned, he was holding a casserole dish. "Who was that?" I asked. "Claire," he said, placing the dish on the nightstand. Claire. The neighbor. She and I had grown close over the past year, coffee chats, book recommendations, swapping recipes. She'd even come over to check on me after the surgery. "She wanted to drop this off for you," Ethan added. "That was thoughtful," I said, though something about his tone felt off. He nodded, avoiding my gaze. "Yeah. Thoughtful." Days turned into weeks. My body was healing, but my heart felt heavier with each passing day. Ethan was growing more distant, spending long hours outside or on his phone. One afternoon, I decided to surprise him. I'd managed to bake his favorite cookies despite the lingering pain, and I carried the plate out to the backyard where he'd been spending so much time. I froze in my tracks when I saw him. He was leaning against the fence, talking to Claire. Her laugh rang out, light and flirty. She touched his arm, and he didn't pull away. The plate trembled in my hands. "Ava," Ethan said, noticing me. His tone was sharp, almost annoyed, as if I'd interrupted something. I thought you might like some cookies," I stammered, my voice barely above a whisper. Claire stepped back, her smile faltering. "Oh, Ava. I was just congratulating Ethan on your recovery. You're looking great." The words felt hollow, forced. "Thanks," I said, my voice tight. "I think I'll head back inside." That evening, I couldn't hold it in any longer. "Ethan, can we talk?" I asked as we sat down for dinner. He didn't look up from his plate. "What about?" "About us," I said, my voice shaking. "About what's been going on lately." He sighed, finally setting down his fork. "Ava, I've been busy. Work's been stressful. I don't know what you want me to say." "I want you to tell me the truth," I said, leaning forward. Are you still happy with me?" His jaw tightened, and he avoided my gaze. "Ethan?" I pressed. He exhaled sharply. "I don't think this is working anymore." His words hit me like a punch to the gut. "What?" I whispered, my voice cracking. "What do you mean?" "I mean," he said, running a hand through his hair, "I don't think I can do this. Us. This marriage." Tears blurred my vision. "Ethan, I just had surgery. I did that for you. For us. You said." "I didn't ask you to do that," he interrupted, his tone cold. "You didn't have to." I shouted, my voice trembling. "I wanted to save what we have." "I thought you wanted that too." I don't, he said bluntly. The room spun. Is there someone else? I asked, the question clawing its way out of my throat. He hesitated. And that hesitation was all the answer I needed. It's Claire, isn't it? I demanded, my voice rising. Ethan looked away, his silence deafening. Oh my God, I whispered, the realization crashing down on me. It's her. It's been her this whole time. The next morning, I confronted Claire. I knocked on her door, my heart pounding in my chest. When she opened it, her expression shifted from surprise to something I couldn't quite place. Guilt? Ava, she said, her tone overly bright. What a surprise. How are you feeling? Cut the act, Claire, I said, my voice steely. How long has it been going on? Her smile faltered. I don't know what you mean. Yes, you do, I said, stepping closer. How long have you been sleeping with my husband? She paled, her hand tightening on the doorframe. Ava, Save it, I snapped. I trusted you. I thought you were my friend. But the whole time, you were doing this? I didn't mean for it to happen, she said weakly. Didn't mean for it to happen? I repeated, my voice rising. That's your excuse? I'm sorry, she said, tears welling in her eyes. I didn't want to hurt you. Well, congratulations, I said bitterly. Because you've done exactly that. When I returned home, Ethan was waiting for me. Ava, he began, but I cut him off. Don't, I said, my voice cold. You don't get to explain. You made your choice. I didn't want it to happen like this, he said, his voice soft. But it did, I said, my hands trembling. And now I'm left to pick up the pieces while you run off with her. I'm sorry, he said, but the words felt empty. I stared at him, my heart breaking all over again. You were my everything, Ethan. And you threw it. He didn't respond. Get out, I said, my voice firm. I don't want to see you anymore. Ava. I said, get out. I shouted, my voice cracking with the weight of my anger and betrayal. Ethan froze, his hand hovering over the doorknob. He turned to face me, his expression somewhere between guilt and defiance. Ava, can we just? No. I snapped, cutting him off. We can't just anything, Ethan. You've ruined everything. You destroyed us, and you did it with her. He sighed, dragging a hand through his hair. I didn't want to hurt you. Oh, stop, I interjected, my voice trembling with disbelief. Do you think that makes it better? That saying you didn't want to hurt me erases the fact that you did? You don't understand, he muttered, his gaze dropping to the floor. Then make me understand. I demanded, stepping closer. Explain to me how you could stand there, watching me go through surgery, watching me suffer, and still sneak off to be with her. How long, Ethan? How long? He hesitated, then mumbled, a few months. A few months? I repeated, the words punching the air from my lungs. So, what? While I was lying in bed recovering, you were next door with her? It wasn't like that, he said, his tone defensive now. Then what was it like, Ethan? I asked, my voice dripping with venom. Tell me. Enlighten me. Because right now, it sounds like the man I married turned into a liar, a cheat, and a coward. He looked up at me, his jaw tightening. I didn't plan for this to happen. Claire and we just connected. I let out a bitter laugh, shaking my head. Connected? That's what you're calling it? Ava, you have to admit things haven't been good between us for a while, he said, his voice rising slightly. So this is my fault now? I said, crossing my arms. You couldn't communicate with me, so you decided to find comfort in the arms of the neighbor? It's not that simple, he said, stepping toward me. No, Ethan, it's not, I said, holding my ground. It's betrayal. Plain and simple. You didn't even have the decency to leave me before starting something with her. You're a coward. His face hardened. And what about you, Ava? You think surgery was the answer? That fixing something superficial would magically fix us? His words stung, cutting deeper than any physical pain I'd endured. I did it because I loved you, I said, my voice trembling. Because I thought we had a chance. But I see now I was fighting for someone who didn't deserve it. Ethan opened his mouth to respond, but I held up a hand, silencing him. Don't, I said firmly. Just leave. Go to her. You've made your choice. He stood there for a moment, as if considering whether to argue. Then he nodded, his face blank. Without another word, he opened the door and walked out. As the door clicked shut, the silence was deafening. I sank onto the couch, my chest heaving with sobs I could no longer contain. A knock at the door startled me. I wiped my eyes quickly, hoping Ethan hadn't come back. But when I opened the door, it was Marcy, my best friend, standing there with a concerned expression. I just saw Ethan leave, she said, stepping inside. Ava, what's going on? I broke down, the words spilling out between sobs. He's been cheating on me. With Claire. The whole time I was recovering, Marcy. Marcy's eyes widened, her face darkening with anger. That son of a... I told him to leave, I continued, my voice shaking. And he went. Just like that. Marcy pulled me into a tight hug. You did the right thing. He doesn't deserve you, Ava. Not after this. I clung to her, letting her words wash over me. But deep down, a small voice whispered that it would take more than words to heal from this. The next morning, I found a handwritten note shoved under my door. Ava. I'm sorry for how this ended, but I couldn't keep pretending. I hope someday you'll understand. I didn't mean to hurt you. I crumpled the paper in my fist, anger bubbling up again. Understand? I muttered to myself. The nerve of him. Marcy walked into the room, her arms full of groceries. What's that? She asked, nodding toward the note. His pathetic attempt at closure, I said, tossing it onto the counter. Marcy picked it up, scanned it, and let out a snort of disgust. Wow. What a cop-out. You deserve so much better than this, Ava. I know, I said, surprising myself with the conviction in my voice. Over the next few weeks, I focused on myself. Therapy sessions, long walks, and reconnecting with friends reminded me of who I was before Ethan had chipped away at my confidence. One afternoon, I saw Claire in her yard. She waved, an awkward, sheepish smile on her face. I didn't wave back. Instead, I held my head high and walked past her without a word. Let her deal with Ethan's lies and excuses now. As for me, I was done with both of them. And for the first time in a long time, I felt free.